Welcome. Welcome to the fourth lecture of vocabulary, fourth practice lecture of vocabulary and fifth lecture of this series. By now you must have got an idea that what we do in our vocab classes. So we will take that forward and do the same things today. But today's class purpose would be much more than that. Would be something which is beyond vocabulary and beyond our exams, right? Today's class's purpose is that we will celebrate, you and I together will celebrate the 72nd Independence Day. On the eve of 72nd Independence Day of ours, we are interacting in this lecture so that we can celebrate. And how are we going to do that? We are going to do that by honoring the unsung heroes of our independence. You know, in our independence, the 200 years of saga of Indian independence, there were many heroes of whom a lot of people today don't know anything about. And today, our target would be those heroes. So, and how are we going to do that? We are going to do that by learning more than 72 words and phrases with their stories. So, today's association, today's stories would all be related to these heroes of Indian freedom struggle. Right? So, that's how we'll honor those unsung heroes of our independence, and we'll learn by not only, and we'll learn words by not only understanding the words but by going back to the history, to the lives of these great men and women. Okay, right? So at the outset only, I'll tell you, as I told you already, that these are those heroes of whom about whom very few people know about. So I'll not be taking those those heroes or those national leaders, freedom strugglers who are well known. For example, we're not talking about Gandhiji, we'll not be talking about Netaji, Bhagat Singh, Vallabhbhai Patel, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, or Jawaharlal Nehru, because most of us have some idea about those heroes, and if you do not have, you should have, my dear friends. But a lot of apart from these 4, 5, 6 names, most of them have been lost in the pages of history. Reliving them is today our target, right? Okay, and we'll also not take the kings and the queens, though obviously I agree that if in 1857 was our first war of independence, where most of the people who fought were the kings and the queens of different Indian confederacies, but essentially we will only focus on the common men and women who became heroes in their life, struggling for India's freedom, right? Okay, so let's so how do we do that? What would be the methodology of it? We will go by the RAMSIR method. That's the method that we go by, right? 17 words, RAMSIR words and phrases of 17 words and phrases is RAMSIR we will do. So today is we have commemorating 71 years of independence. Tomorrow is our 72nd Independence Day. So 71 years of independence. Therefore, reverse 17 words and phrases commemorating 17 heroes of freedom struggle. Right. So that's how we will do it. One word or phrase, as you know, gives you minimum 5 to 6 associated words. So including root words, synonym and antonym. So very easily we will go beyond that 72 mark that we have set for ourselves. What I'm expecting is we'll get around 80 to 85 words today, right? Okay, so most important task for you today is to pass forward these stories. Repetition activity would happen itself. You see, in all other classes, what do I tell you? That the most important task for you is to repeat, right? That's what I tell you, right? But today, the most important task is to forward these stories. Repetition of these words would automatically happen when you would tell these stories in your own style, in your own way, to your friends, or no, and share these stories using these words. That's what I want you from you today, right? Okay, so let's first go through RAMSIR method once, so that you get to know that this is what we'll do, this is the methodology in which we'll do, and then let's relish the stories, the amazing stories of the amazing people, men and women of our freedom struggle. Okay, shalom. Magic trick of vocab, the RAMSIR way. Two segments to it: understanding the word and remembering the word. So the understanding the word happens through Ram, and remembering the word happens through Sir. So when we do an understanding of the word, so what is Ram, or what does Ram signify? Ram signifies root and meaning, association, A for association and M for mnemonic. I will not go into detail of these. You already know. If you do not know, go back to the last 3-4 lectures that we have done on this channel, and understand the process in which we do it. The Sir is synonym and antonym. S stands for synonym and antonym, I for implementation, and R for repetition. So together RAMSIR makes a complete approach towards towards understanding a word, remembering a word, and utilizing a word in your own language, in your own writing, and in your own usage, right? So that's what RAMSIR is. Those who have not an idea about this, as I told you, you need to go back and look at the first lecture of this series. And anyways, in this lecture we will move forward and do this activity again and again. You will get an idea from that also. Okay, right. Chalo. So we'll start with the first word and the first hero of the day. But before we go on to do that, let me tell you again, let me repeat it, that amongst the RAM activities for words, you can do 2 out of 3 of these activities, or even 1 out of 3 out of these activities. But in the SIR activities, it is better to do all the activities. Okay, right? So that you sort of get to understand and use it in regular basis. In the phrases segment, in the phrase, because I told you we will use phrases, we will learn phrases too, phrases or idioms too. So in phrases, out of all the activities, you might not get synonym and antonyms, because you see synonym and antonyms of phrases might be unavailable. So in that case, 2 out of 3 activity in SIR would do. But in words, all activity of SIR. Okay, sure. So again, how to make your vocab copy? All of you know how to make your vocab copy. This is the way you make your vocab copy. Word 1, RAMSIR of that word. So if you are sitting with your copy, so take it out and identify how I have suggested that word 1. Then we'll do the activities of RAMSIR there. So that will take 3 to 4 lines. Then again 2 to 3 lines gap, and then we'll move on to the word 2, and then 3 to 4 lines of RAMSIR, again 2 to 3 lines gap, and next word. So in one page you will have at the max 3 to 4 words and their RAMSIR, not more than that, right? Okay, chalo. So let's move on to the first word and the first hero of today. Infraction is the word. It's a noun word. So let's see Ram first. So infraction means violation of law or agreement. Okay, so that it means. Now, what is the root? Root is it comes from a Latin word, fract or frag, both, right? So what are the kind of words that you get from these two roots? Similar root words, same root words: fracture, fragile, fragment. These are the words that you come across from the same root. We'll come to the association now. Now the association, the words have been taken in such a way, or the heroes have been taken in such a way that I have tried to make their time of operation, or the time in which they were active, as the indicator, or the time in which they died as an indicator. So the earliest the earliest patriot would be coming first, then the later, that way. So it's chronologically kept, so that you remember also the chronology. So the first association is a pre-1857 patriot named Tirot Singh. Now, this is the image of Tirot Singh. In every one of these words, what I'll do is that I'll use the images of the freedom fighters, of the respective freedom fighters. Because see, the one of the most tragic thing is that we don't know by face the people who had fought for us, right? And according to me as an Indian, that's something which is very tragic. At least we can give them this much time of ours so that we know how they might have looked, right? Obviously this image, so I'll give images. So in association, rather than associating with the word, I will want you today, for today's class only, to associate with that freedom fighter of whom we are talking about, and the implementation I will associate it with the word and the freedom fighter both. So this is the image of Tirot Singh. So the first hero of today, Tirot Singh. Now, who was Tirot Singh? Let me tell you his story first, and then I'll move on to the rest part of the word. He was the leader of Anglo-Khasi War. Now, the Khasi Council ruled Meghalaya in those period. This is, I'm talking about 1825 to 30, right? So by 1826, the East India Company had already captured the Brahmaputra region, but the Meghalaya region and the Khasi Hills were not under their, under their capture. So East India Company had an agreement with Khasi Council now that they will leave Khasi Hills and parts of Sylhet under Khasi Council's rule if they are allowed to build a road through their lands, right? So Khasi Hills would be kept intact. They would be under Khasi Council only if they are allowed to, if East India Company is allowed to build a road through their land. But as was the nature of East India Company, they betrayed, they violated that agreement, and they have started the 4-year long Anglo-Khasi War. So that was 4-year long Anglo-Khasi War. But the problem was that the Khasis, under the leadership of Tirot Singh, had only swords and bows, which was inadequate against the British artillery. So, ultimately he was captured and he was deported to Dhaka, where he died, right? So, Tirot Singh, one of the first revolutionaries of India, one of the first revolutionaries of India's freedom struggle, right? A lot of people, misjudge Tirot Singh as one of the, as one of the kings. He was not the king; he was the chief of Khasi Council, which is a very different thing than king. Right, so Khasi people used to have councils at that point of time, which is a very advanced form of government, depending upon the time, talking about the time that we are talking about, 1825, right? And he was the leader of them. So the sir activity, let's see, synonym, infringement. So infraction. Acha, mnemonic I missed. Mnemonic I missed. Something where you do, rules infraction. Rules infraction is infraction. Now, what do we mean by rules infraction? See, when you break rules, then you are you're doing rules infraction. That is infraction. So that was mnemonic. Synonym, infringement, contravention, breach, violation, so these are the synonyms. What are the antonyms? Respect, upholding, respecting the agreement, upholding the agreement. Now let's see the implementation. The infraction of East India Company, so the violation of the East India Company led to the revolt of Khasi people of Meghalaya under the leadership of Tirot Singh, right? So that was the implementation. So repetition, your turn. As I always tell you, try to make out a good sentence, and for today, try it to be on some freedom fighter that you know. Next word, and the next hero of today is Bibliophile. So, the bibliophile, what do you mean by bibliophile? Bibliophile, as you might have guessed, it means lover of books. And see, the root word here is the Greek word phil, which means to love. And you have so many words with word. Well, like you have philology, which means love of language or words. You have philosophy, love of wisdom, philanthropy, love of mankind, Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, philharmonic, love of music or harmony, Anglophile, admirer of British culture, philatelist. Okay, the spelling is wrong here. Philatelist is Philatelist. That was a typo mistake. So philatelist, one who collects or studies stamps, right? So these are the root words, same root words. These are the same meaning words. These are the same root words. So who amongst the forgotten heroes was a bibliophile? Let me show you. I don't know if anyone knows about him. This is the image of Pir Ali Khan. Pir Ali Khan. Now you see, his is one movement that remained forgotten in the pages of 1857 revolt. Because you need, when we, even if we study the history of 1857, we study the kings and the queens. We never study what the common man did there. This here was one common man, Pir Ali Khan, running a bookshop, a bibliophile. He was a bookbinder also. Okay, and he was the leader of what is today known as Patna conspiracy. Patna conspiracies leader Pir Ali Khan. So let me tell you his story. I told you now I'll tell you a lot of stories today. You see, because he was a commoner, his tale is forgotten. He ran a bookshop which became a place for spreading his ideas of freedom for motherland. He conspired with Waris Ali, a British Indian soldier, to take over the cantonment of Patna. Now, when Waris got arrested, Peer had to prepone his plans and marched with his comrades to take over Gulzar Bagh, which was the headquarter of British near Patna at that point of time. So Wazir Ali got arrested and he had to prepone the plan. When he was marching towards one British officer with a lot of Indian soldiers were coming in, and we saw there were so many people marching. He ordered heavy firing. In retaliation, Pir Ali Khan also asked his comrades to fire, and he also fired. The British officer was killed. So a lot of people were Pir Ali Khan's side also. There were heavy casualty. So but they could not go march towards Gulzar Bagh, and he was captured. He was captured alive. Now the next part, up till this much was okay type, but the next part is something that is so heartening. He was captured alive and he was tortured brutally till death for his followers' name and maybe I think not only for followers' name or interrogation. I think the British officers were sadist too, or the East India Company officers were sadist too. So he was tortured brutally. Some say one of his limbs was skinned while he was alive. He was skinned, right? And at that point also of time also, the other prison inmates used to say that he used to shout at the Britishers, saying that I would die, but I would not betray my brothers to of my motherland to you. So that was Pir Ali Khan. Uh, you know, this is how he died. He did not relent. He did not give the names of his comrades. But today he lies forgotten. Everyone, I don't know that if anyone remembers him such. As I'm in 1857, let me share with you another story. Another story, and this story is of Begum Hazrat Mahal. Obviously, I told you that I'll not talk about any queen or kings, but why I taking this story. One is that she was not a queen by birth. She was a courtesan. Now she was turned queen because Wajid Ali Shah married her, and the speciality of Begum Hazrat Mahal's revolt was that it happened in the ending stages of 1857. But it happened, why, Begum Hazrat Mahal was the de facto ruler for the Awadh region. But what happened is that she was the de facto ruler because the other people were not, the legitimate rulers were not ready to take the throne, because the Britishers had said that you should not take the throne. So, but Begum Hazrat Mahal was very courageous, and she went in. So why she took the throne is a beautiful story. The story was that the peasants started coming to her, saying that the temples and the mosques on the roads of British Army are all being demolished. Both temples and mosques, not only mosques, but not only temples, both subjects went to her. So when they went to her and said this, none of the other royal because Wajid Ali Shah was deported by then, none of the other people in the royal household supported these peasants, but Begum Hazrat Mahal came forward and supported them, and fought a war against the British, which she obviously couldn't win, and she had to flee away, but there was one. Chalo, so let's see the sir activity here. Book synonyms: book lover, scholar. So he was a bibliophile. Pir Ali Khan was a bibliophile. So he was a bibliophile. Being a bibliophile himself, Pir Ali Khan could incite political debates, and that is why his bookshop became a favorite place for revolutionaries, and that's what happened, right? So that's how you can implement this. So synonyms, we'll look at the synonyms: book lover, scholar. Antonyms: ignoramus and mythologist. Now mythologist is a person who hates knowledge, or development of knowledge. Okay, right? So that was implementation. Repetition is your turn. Now we'll move on to the next word and the next hero. Imperious. So what does that word mean? Imperious means displaying arrogant pride. Right? The mnemonic, I'll read the mnemonic also. Important people act imperious. Important people act imperious. Right? So they display arrogant pride, important people. So let me give you an association. Now, this person is not to be associated with imperious. No, this is the folk legendary hero Birsa Munda. He is what Impious was not. So he's the antonym of Impious. His struggle was against the Impious Britishers and the Zamindars. I'll tell that. All right. So I'll give you the sentence and the synonyms, and then I'll give you the then I'll tell you the story of Birsa Munda. A very interesting story. Synonyms: arrogant, scornful, domineering, supercilious. This supercilious word we have done in the last lecture. Antonyms: humble, modest. Implementation: the imperious ways, here to be ways, the imperious ways in which British officers and zamindars appointed by the former, the British officers, acted towards the native people led Birsa Munda to revolt. Right? So the arrogant pride, the way in which the British people and the zamindars who were appointed by the British people displayed pride and exploited the native people, the Mundas, the tribals, that led to the tribal revolt of Bengal, Bihar, Odisha by Birsa Munda. So let me tell you about Birsa Munda now. Now, this legendary hero hailed from the tribal community of Mundas. At that time it was he was from the Bengal province. Today that area is from Jharkhand. British government's feudal system, through the feudal system, snatched tribal lands and made tribals from owners to slaves in their own land. Okay, so the tribal people started becoming, the feudal system of Britishers. They created a middleman called Jagirdar and Zamindar. Now this Jagirdar Zamindar became the agent of Britishers, and the tribal people who were the owners of the land became the slaves of Jagirdar in their own land. Right? Okay. So now and the Zamindars exploited them endlessly. Birsa was one of the first and maybe the most popular of leaders who went against this system. And not only that, He established a parallel self-rule system based on tribal laws. Tribal laws. Right. Okay. Now, his armed struggle, he went in against the Britishers in an armed struggle against the combined might of Britishers and the Zamindars. And that is still today a folklore in many parts of Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, and Jharkhand. Right. Many mistakenly take him to be an uneducated tribal, but you will be surprised to know that he was a very well-educated person. Apart from his mother tongue, he knew English and he also knew two other mainstream Indian languages. He introduced reforms in tribal community by mixing modern education. He also motivated using modern equipment in farming, which normally tribals did not do. But above all, what he did was he made or he wanted his people to be respected for what they are, son of soils. The tribals are the real son of soils of isn't it? So if they are not respected, how would land be respected? How would our country be respected? So Birsa Munda's fight is, to an extent, has not ended with the freedom of India. It still goes on, because still, there is this conflict. Maybe you can say it to be a class conflict, but a conflict between the tribals and the non-tribals of India. Right. So that was Birsa Munda. He died, in 1900. He was it was obvious he died in jail in 1900. He was captured and he died in jail in 1900. Right? So let's move on to the next hero and the next word. Valiant. Oh, now this. I mean, now the hero that I'm going to talk about is a man who would put superheroes to shame. I'm telling you. Just I'll tell you a story and you decide for yourself. You know, if it had not been true, no one would have believed that here was one Indian who could have done so many things at that point of time. So let's look at the word first. The word is very brave, courageous, and upright, morally upright. Mnemonic, antonym of villain, valiant, villain, antonym. Hero. Hero is supposed to be brave, courageous, upright. Right? Now, so what is this picture doing here? And obviously, this is not the man I'm talking about. This is just an author's impression, right? Who is the man I'm talking about? Yes, my dear friends, some of you must have heard about him. He is none other than Bagha Jatin. Bagha Jatin was a name that people gave him. His real name was Jatindranath Mukherjee. Now, who was he? What was his story? And why would he put superheroes to shame? I'll come to that in a moment. Let me first do this. Synonyms: courageous, fearless, gallant, heroic, indomitable. Antonyms: cowardly, timid, meek. These are the antonyms. Let me implement. When Bagha Jatin died, Officer Tegard said, "It was my duty to catch you." Within inverted commas, I have said, because Officer Tegard said, "But I respect you more than anyone. I have seen no one more valiant than you. Adieu, my brave friend." Touching, right? From a British intelligence officer coming, very touching, right? And let me tell you the story of this great man. Why was he called Bagha Jatin? It's again a fantastic, like all stories with him, again a fantastic story. He killed a Royal Bengal tiger with a kukri. Kukri is that, Gurkha dagger, in one-on-one fight with a Royal Bengal tiger, all by himself, right? And from that day onwards, he was called Bagha Jatin. He was one of the founding members of what was arguably the first revolutionary organization of India inside India, and that was Anushilan Samiti. Anushilan Samiti was founded by Barin Ghosh, who was the younger brother of Aurobindo, Rishi Aurobindo Ghosh, and some other people, and Bagha Jatin was also one of the founding members. Now, Anushilan Samiti was one of the first, political revolutionary organization. From here only, the later on Ram Prasad Bismil, Chandrasekhar Azad would take the motivation from Anushilan Samiti and form Hindustan Republic organization, HRA. So, more of that later on. I'll come to that later on also. But what about Bagha Jatin? His life was full of adventures. I mean, let me tell you some story about him. When Prince of Wales was visiting India, and his procession was passing on. There came this, the Indian ladies, also the rich from the rich household, traveled in carriages and to see the prince. Now you see, the Britishers were rulers, so obviously they had this arrogant pride. So what they did, 6 British youth went on and sat over the carriage, dangling their feet, and started making lewd comments to the girls that were there in the carriage. Now, Bagha Jatin went to them, and first he requested that please come down. When they did not, he went up to the carriage, and in front of Prince's procession is passing. Imagine, Prince's procession is passing, and he started just slapping the 6 Englishmen. And 6 lamba chauda Englishmen could not do anything against a single Bagha Jatin. That was his kind of, the strength he had. He was in power. He was second to none. With slaps, he made those 6 Englishmen get down and run away in fear. Everyone was dumbstruck. Even the police out there could not understand what to do. They haven't seen a scene like this, an Indian coming in and just slapping. And there, he announced that to beat the English, you don't need feast, you just need pure Indian slaps. What a character, isn't it? Right. And you know what happened? Prince of Wales, when he went back to England, he called the mayor of Calcutta, or the person who was administering Calcutta, and asked him why Indians are treated so badly when they are the subjects of the Queen. So that one act, did so many things. Then again, there was this story about he threw 2 British army officers from train, as they were calling Indian passengers dogs and making them sit on the floor. So he got angry, he went up there and he beat them blue, and he threw them out of the train. So that's what he was. And you know what? In the political, he did a lot of things politically, as a revolutionary, as a social worker. And he was the main man of contact who was to implement the Indo-German plan of Ghadar Party. So you must have heard about Ghadar Party, the party which of revolutionaries, which was founded in USA and Canada by people who have gone to work in USA and Canada from India. And the party had all kinds of people. There were Hindus, there were Sikhs, there were Muslims in there. The Ghadar party wanted an armed revolution in India. So Bagha Jatin was the main man. They sent 2 ships laden with arms and ammunition during World War I towards Calcutta port. Not to Calcutta, but towards an Odisha port. Not to port also, towards the seashore of Odisha. And Bagha Jatin was to take it and distribute it within the people who were there, and the army people who wanted to revolt against the army men who wanted to Indian army men who wanted to revolt against the British Empire. So but that unfortunately the ships laden with guns and ammunition was intercepted by the intelligence, British intelligence, and Baha Jatin was cornered in his last stand in a place called Chasakhand, Balasore, Odisha. Chasakhand, Balasore, Odisha. He fought till the last bullet. 5 people. The amazing part. More than 500 British soldiers came to capture Bagha Jatin, and Bagha Jatin was along with his 4 comrades. 5 versus 500. In the official document, later on the English people deleted the number of casualty of English soldiers, but people from that area say that, or people who had been there at that point of time had said that the British casualty was not less than 75 to 100. So even if I assume that it was 50, people have this thing to exaggerate, but even if I assume 50, 5 people uh, with very less ammunition killing 50 armed British soldiers, that was something. That was something, man. One of the, I suppose, one of the greatest last stands in India, in Indian freedom struggle, isn't it? Fought till the last bullet, Bagha Jatin. His comrade Chitrapriya, fell down earlier with a bullet shot. He loved Chitrapriya a lot, like a brother. So his head was resting. His fallen comrade's head was resting in his lap when Bagha Jatin was fighting till his last bullet. He was very hurt in that battle. And Tegat was the man, this man, Officer Tegat. Tegat was the British officer who was instrumental in leading the capture of Bagha Jatin. He said to Gandhiji once that if Bagha Jatin had been an Englishman, his statue would have been in the center of Trafalgar Square, right next to Nelson. Now, Nelson is the man who defeated Napoleon Bonaparte. So that was the kind of respect he had from his adversaries. But unfortunately, we, his own countrymen, forgot him. Right? So that was the Superman in front of you, the living Superman. Right? So I gave this image, just to, so that you always remember that there was a man who, with his bare hands, killed a tiger, and he was one of the greatest Indian revolutionaries. Chalo, next word and the next hero. Peripatetic. Peripatetic. The meaning of peripatetic is constantly traveling from place to place on foot. The root word is a Latin word, means peri, which means around or about. The same root words are meaning periphery, perihelion, right? So these are all same root words of peripatetic. So what is periphery? Circumference. Perimeter, outer boundary. Perihelion, point in the orbit of planet or comet nearest to the sun, right? So mnemonic here would be, you see in Peripatica means leg petica, on legs. Association, let me tell you the association of it, the hero associated with it. The hero, I'm sorry I couldn't find an actual picture, actual image of his. I wanted to give you today all the actual images, how they look like, but of him I couldn't find any actual image. This is Alluri Sitarama Raju. Now, again a folk hero hailing from Andhra, a tribal hero. What is today known of Andhra is where he was from. What his let me tell you his story first. The restrictions on tribal, when he was in the period of 1917 to 1922. There was this very popular, unsuccessful but very popular Rampa rebellion. Alluri Sitarama Raju was the leader of that Rampa rebellion. Okay, So it in around 1950s, 15s and 16s, 17 in that period, restrictions on tribal people went on increasing, and even mainstream politicians were never really representing them. So inspired by the Bengal revolutionaries and Birsa Munda, Raju started looting police stations in the area of Vishakhapatnam. So in the area of Vishakhapatnam and East Godavari district, he started looting police stations for guns and ammunition. In 1918, he started the campaign. 1918 was a very successful campaign year. He killed various army officers, including Scott Coward, in guerrilla wars. And in 1922, and it went on till 1922. In the between 1918 to 1922, he used to indulge in guerrilla warfare only. He used to go in there, attack some police post, take the ammunition, and take his people alongside, kill some Britishers, and make, the try to make a living for the tribal people. You see, please understand, in India, the tribals, in some parts the tribal people have this system where, if one part of the season they are in one area, and one part of the season they are in another area, because the crops grow, different kinds of crop grow in different season in different areas. So British government stopped that, and Alluri Sitaram Raju's revolt was against that, the rights of the indigenous people of India, right? So he was shot dead in one of the police encounters, and 1922 he died. Synonyms of peripatetic: itinerant, nomadic, roving. Antonyms: settled, stable, unmoving. Let's implement it. During the Rampa rebellion, Alluri Sitarama Raju, the peripatetic revolutionary. This is a term I have coined. This is not there with his name. The peripatetic revolutionary, the revolutionary who constantly traveled from one place to another with food, never stayed in one place for long. Right? So that was Alluri Sitarama Raju for you. Next word: inception. Inception. Let's see what it means. Many of you might know the meaning of the word inception. It means starting something new. Yes. And the mnemonic inception, there was a mnemonic that I found out very interesting. When do you start life after marriage? And you incept it with reception. So you invite people at the reception, and your marriage is solemnized there. So inception of marriage with reception. Now let's look at our hero of for this word inception, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das. So a lot of things have been written in the Prasar Bharati banner that I have used in here for his picture, for his image. Known as honorific Deshbandhu, meaning friend of country, was the leader of Swaraj Party, was the founder of Swaraj Party, was against caste discrimination and untouchability, right? And supported female education, widow remarriage, was a leading figure in non-cooperation movement. One of his his famous quotes: "If I live, I live for Swaraj. If I die, I die for Swaraj." So you have read this, and let me tell you something more about him. He was one of the main reasons, why non-cooperation movement was such a resounding success in the eastern part and some part of UP in India. He's a huge fan following in these parts of the country. Even in Punjab, he had a considerable fan following. But after non-cooperation movement was called off, he had differences with Gandhi, and he went forward and founded Swaraj Party. In his times, he was a very successful and prominent lawyer of his time. He was one of the best lawyers of the country of his time, and he left practice in late 1890s. But again, in 1908, there was a case for which he had to come back to practice, and that was the famous case of Alipur Bomb case. Now, who was the person who was indicted in Alipur Bomb case? Yes, Rishi Aurobindo was indicted in Alipur bomb case. So Rishi Aurobindo was indicted, and he came back in 1908 to defend successfully Rishi Aurobindo. Later on, he after Swaraj Party founding, he sort of in 1924-25, he started uh, fighting for elections in the Calcutta municipal elections, and he won it. He became the chairman of the Calcutta Municipality Board, and under him, Subhash Chandra Bose became the CEO of that board. And the first modern style city management was run under them. Right. So modern style city management in Calcutta in those 3-4 years, Swaraj Party was there. Synonym: inauguration, beginning, initiation, commencement. Antonyms: conclusion, end. Implementation: after the inception of Swaraj Party, Deshbandhu went on to win the Calcutta municipal elections. Right, so that was Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das. He was, he was a very, I say he was the guru of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, used to say that Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das was his guru. Next, Intrepid. The next word is Intrepid. Let's see who is the hero. The hero would come in a little later. Let me first give you the meaning. Fearless and adventurous. That's what Intrepid means. Now, who is the hero now? Yes, Ram Prasad Bismil. Some of you must have heard about his name. If you have watched movies like Bhagat Singh, if you've watched movies Shaheed, or even the Amir Khan movie Rang De Basanti. So Ram Prasad Bismil was a character, was an intrepid character, man. I mean, what do you say about him? Let me say about him after I give you the synonyms and the implementation. Unafraid, dauntless, undaunted, bold, daring. All these words fit in for him. Antonyms: fearful, cowardly. Implementation: the intrepid act of Kakori train robbery of Ram Prasad Bismil and his comrades shook the British administration. And it really did. Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfaqullah Khan, Chandrasekhar Azad, Kakori train robbery, it shook the British administration. And then see, this quote written in here: even if I have to face death 1,000 times for the sake of my motherland, I shall not be sorry. Oh Lord, grant me 100 births in India, but grant me this too, that each time I may give up my life in the service of my motherland. Such emotions. A lot of people. He was also the man who popularized Bismil Ahmed Badi's song "Sarfaroshi ki tamanna ab hamare dil mein hai." A lot of people misunderstand that they think that Ram Prasad Bismil wrote that song because he himself was a writer. But that song was not written by Ram Prasad Bismil. It was written by Bismil Ahmed Badi. But it was popularized by Ram Prasad Bismil and Ashfaqullah Khan. These were the two friends who popularized this song. This became the theme song of Hindustan Republican Organization. So he was hanged due to Kakori incident, all of you know, along with his friends Ashfaqullah Khan, Roshan Singh and Rajendra Lahiri. So these were the 4 people who were hanged for the Kakori incident. Roshan Singh, Thakur Roshan Singh, and Rajendra Lahiri. Right. So these were the men who were hanged. He was the founder of Hindustan Republican Organization along with Sachindranath Sanyal. This Hindustan Republican Organization later on became the Hindustan Socialist Republican Organization. This happened when Azad and Bhagat Singh were the primary leaders of this organization. Because after Bismil and Ashfaqullah Khan were hanged in 1927, Azad and Bhagat Singh became the main leaders of this organization. Okay. Now, so let's move on to the next person and the next hero of of our freedom struggle with the word assassination. Now the next is not hero but heroes. A trio, a trio led by another enigmatic character. I'll come to it. Assassination, noun. What does it mean? It means killing of a prominent person, normally political person. A person who's, if a political person is killed, a prominent political person is killed, then it's called assassination. You know where it came from? It came from hashish. No, hashish. See, hashish is a drug which is made from cannabis, right? And what it used to, and it has hallucination effect. So what happened? During the this is a different story. During the Crusades, the Arabic rulers used to give hashish to their soldiers and send them to suicide missions, right? So to suicide missions, to wars. So whatever you do, and under the influence of hashish, they would not have any pain. Okay. So and these were normally used, normally used for murders of general of the crusaders, right? So from those murders came the word assassination. Assassination, matlab, it means that under the influence of hashish, right? And that over a period of time came to be known as assassination. As far as I know, the word assassination was first used from that assassination word by in literature by William Shakespeare. Now let's come to the association. This is the association. Binay Badal Dinesh, the trio led by Binay Basu, Binay Badal Dinesh, BBD. Who are they? And what did they do? And what did they do? Let me tell you about Binay Basu first. He had a full filmy life, like his ideal Bagha Jatin. You see, Bagha Jatin inspired a lot of people, from Binay to Chandrasekhar Azad to Khudiram Bose. He inspired a lot of people. Binay Bose was one of the first volunteers for the volunteers corps. Volunteer corps, you would remember, was the volunteer corps was the corps which was organized by Subhash Chandra Bose when he was in India, before he went on to found the INA in 1927, I suppose it was founded. So volunteer corps was, he wanted to train Indian youths in martial arts, in actual warfare, and that was volunteer corps was made. And so all of them were one of the first initiates in the volunteer corps. Then the armed revolution concept of Subhash Chandra Bose caught his fancy, and he started a more extreme form of revolt. He started to assassinate British army or police officers, and not any army or police officers, but those who were known for atrocities against fellow Indians, against his fellow Indians. So his first assassination was he killed Inspector General of Police Lohman when Lohman was visiting a friend in hospital. So he went into a hospital. Somehow he managed to get past the security forces, kill Lohman, and fled away. The escape stories, are not only thrilling. When he escaped, the escape stories are not only thrilling, but it would directly transport you to a James Bond or Jason Bourne novel. Changes of vehicle, changes of name, profession, giving police a slip the moment he is going to be caught. His companion in these times was his fellow comrade called Supati Roy. Now this happened. This went on for 2-3 years. And then in 1929, 30, he planned something which will go down as the most audacious, successful assassination in the history of India. Right. Benoy, along with Badal Gupta and Dinesh Gupta, executed the assassination of Colonel Simpsons. Now, who was Colonel Simpson? Colonel Simpson was at that point of time the IG police for prisons. So what Colonel Simpson used to do, he used to torture freedom fighters a lot, right? and therefore this was a revenge against his brother's torture of his fellow fraternity. And how did they do it? They did it in style, man. They went inside writers building, the seat of British power in India, right? And they assassinated there the IG police. Can you imagine? Obviously, because it was in a heavily guarded place, assassination was followed by a battle. This battle was later on, this battle is known as Battle of Veranda because it was fought in the veranda, right? Several senior British officers were injured in this. At the end, when they had no ammunition, Badal took cyanide, and Dinesh Gupta and Binay Bosu shot himself. So that was their life. Let me show you the synonyms. Murder, termination, extermination, liquidation, all of these are synonyms of assassination. Antonyms, no relevant antonyms found. Implementation. Binoy Badal Dinesh's daring act of killing Colonel Simpsons inside Writers' Building is the most successful high-profile assassination in Indian freedom struggle. That I already told you, right? Okay, so that was implementation of assassination. Repetition, your turn. Let's move on now to the next hero of today with the word genuflect. So what does it mean? Genuflect is to blow. Now, association, this is the man who never genuflected. Who is this man? You have seen the the artist impression of this man. Yes, you guessed it correct. This is Chandrasekhar Azad. This is the man who never knew how to bow, right? But I'll come to the story after I have given you the mnemonic and the synonyms. Mnemonic: husband's genuflect when there is conflict with Janu. When husband's wife, his Janu, when they have a conflict with Janu, they genuflect. They have to bow. What more can they do? Huh? Right? Now the synonyms and the implementation. Synonym: bow, katsi, stoop. No relevant antonym. Chandrasekhar Azad shot himself with the last bullet, thereby keeping his promise to never genuflect before the Britishers. This he never did, right? So that was the implementation. Now let me tell you the story of Chandrasekhar Azad. His student days went into social service. After the calling of non-cooperation movement, he got actively involved in the revolutionary politics. He joined Bismill's HRA and came in contact with the few remaining Bengal revolutionaries of Anushilan Samiti. You see, Anushilan Samiti was in the process of wrapping up at that point of time. All the main leaders had been either killed or jailed or sent to Kalapani, right? So, but the passion, but the vigor of Anushilan Samiti came into HRA, right? So in there, there is also a story with Chandrasekhar Azad. Chandrasekhar Azad, there is a scene in the old Shahid film that when Chandrasekhar Azad asked Bhagat Singh why he wants to join his party, then Bhagat Singh kept the hand over the candle, burning candle, and said something. But actually, the story is with Ramprasad Bismil and Chandrasekhar Azad. Ramprasad Bismil asked Chandrasekhar Azad why does he want to join him, and Chandrasekhar Azad did that candle wala thing. I don't know whether it's whether it's story or real, but that's what the colleagues of those times of Chandrasekhar Azad had told. Now, so where was I? Yes, he was a part of Kakori and also mastermind the bomb blast in Viceroy's train. See, after the hanging of Bismil, Ashfaqullah and Lahiri, he along with Bhagat Singh reorganized the HRA and made HSRA, right? Along with Rajguru, Bhagat Singh, he planned the assassination of Police Super Scott. If you remember this, Police Superintendent Scott, who under whose order Lala Lajpat Rai was hit. But what happened? They mistakenly shot Saunders, another British officer. And after that, a manhunt was initiated against Chandrasekhar Azad. He got trapped in Alfred Park of Allahabad, and after a prolonged shootout, when there was only one bullet left, he committed harakiri, suicide. So, and that ways he kept the promise of never bowing down to the Britishers, right? It's a very lesser known fact that to run operations of HSRA, Azad frequently was short of money. This is trivia, है ना? Trivia of Indian freedom struggle. Who was one of his major contributors? One of his major contributors was none other than Motilal Nehru, father of Jawaharlal Nehru, right? So though Congress was never supported Azad and Bhagat Singh's brand of movement, but Motilal Nehru was the major was a major contributor to Azad's revolt. Reputation. Now your turn. Next hero of the day will come with the word audacious. Audacious is showing willingness to take surprisingly bold risks. Association, mnemonic. Let me tell you. When you do something with by which people or means other people. Other people dare means are afraid. So when others get afraid of your job of your work is when you are audacious, right? So that's the mnemonic. So who is the hero of audacious? Yes, Tiger of Bengal, Master Das Surya Sen. Now, Surya Sen, what to say about him? He was a teacher. His history lessons made him a popular leader in Chittagong district. Now it is in Bangladesh. He was lovingly called Master Da. And the most famous move I mean the most famous and his last major revolution that he did was the armed revolt in 1930 in the armory of Chittagong, where he raided British arms and armory of Chittagong. Understood? Proper army area, and Indian flag was hoisted there. But the problem was that everything was planned, but they did not know that the Britishers keep the British army keeps the ammunition separate from the guns, right? And they did not have ammunition. They had a lot of guns, but they had very less ammunition. So in 90 there was a stand at Jalalabad, the hills, where a lot of his followers died. He was asked to leave from there, so he to re-engineer another coup so that he can free that area of Chittagong. He's a master of disguise, right? If he had not been betrayed by his fellow comrade, he would never would have been captured. So from 1930 to 1934, he made a huge organization which was on the brink of staging of coup in the Chittagong district. But that could not happen, and that could not happen. The reason was that he was betrayed by one Netra Sen. He went to his home, and Netra Sen betrayed him to police. Surya Sen was Master Da was captured, tortured, and died in 1934 after heavy torture from British police, and his body was thrown in sea. Right, he was not even given a burial. That's how it is, and you can understand the level of torture. British executioners broke all his tooth, pulled out all his nails, broke all his limbs and joints. That's what he was. This is the sadistic. Many people nowadays say that the British people were justice loving my foot. If they had been justice loving, they wouldn't have done this. Okay, if you think that he has done a crime, hang him. Why this bestial activity, right? So and this happened with the 100 years back with Pir Ali Khan too. Why this bestiality? Right? So justice loving was just a facade, nothing but that. Okay. So, I'll give you the synonyms. I'll tell you another story related to him. Boldness, valiant, courageous. Antonym, timid, non-risk taker. Implement, led by Master Surya Sen. The raid of Chittagong Armory is undoubtedly one of the most audacious acts of freedom struggle. True, very true. Okay, let me tell you one thing. I'll tell you another thing. Netra Sen, the man who betrayed Surya's Master Da, his wife was a diehard fan of Master Da. So his wife, so there was because he betrayed, Netra Sen betrayed Master Da, his followers came to assassinate Netra Sen. So Netra Sen was sort of running away from the followers of Master Da, and his wife gave the position of Netra Sen, and he was beheaded by the comrades of Master Da. So revenge taken, but uh, a great freedom fighter lost. Shallow. Now the first woman of the day. Keep the fact flying. An idiom, not a word, an idiom. To stand up for something. Now this is, this has started meaning figuratively, to stand up for something, to achieve success on behalf of your country. But the person I am going to talk about is a person who literally kept the flag flying, and she was the septuagenarian Matangini Hajra. This is the actual photo and this is the artist impression. Now, I'll tell you the story. Let me give you the synonyms and the implementation. Keep the flag flying means back, to support, to defend. Antonym, to betray, surrender. Implementation. Before I go into implementation, let me give you the story. Hailing from Midnapur of Bengal, a district of Bengal, she was widowed at the age of 18, very small age of 18. And from around 1905, when Bengal partition happened, she started actively involving herself in freedom struggle. Was a staunch follower of Mahatma Gandhi. During 1942 Quit India movement, she led a procession of 6,000 people, more than half women, towards Tamluk police station to take over the police station non-violently. But as she approached, police shot her once. She was leading, so she was shot. So she was shot in the arm. She moved on. They shot her again. Still she moved on, bleeding profusely. And then they shot her the third time. Then she fell. But when she fell, the flag did not fall. The flag was upright, clutched in her hands as her body lay in dust. So, implementation, one bullet couldn't stop the septuagenarian Matangini Hajra. Two bullets couldn't, and neither could the third, because though she died of the third, she kept the flag flying. Literally, na? Kept the flag flying. So, both in the literal form and the figurative form, kept the flag flying, stands here. As I am onto one flag hero, let me take the names of the other flag heroes too. The other flag heroes would be, the prominent flag heroes who gave, some of them gave life for hoisting the Indian flag. Tirupur Kumaran, a 25-year-old lad who was shot by British police, and but the flag did not go down. Kanak Bala Devi, Bhogeshwari, the next was Kanak Bala Devi, then Bhogeshwari Fukanani, and who would be the other? Tararani Srivastav, right? Tararani Srivastav's story is, another heart-wrenching story. Tararani Srivastav and her husband were marching with the flag during the Quit India movement only. Her husband was shot. She bandaged her husband's wound and she went on with the flag and went and hoisted the flag. When she came back, her husband has already died. Right. So these are the kind of sacrifices these people have done for us. Chalo, the next word and the next hero. Chuspa. Let's see who is the next hero. Extreme. What's the meaning of the word chuspa? Chuspa means extreme self-confidence. Nowadays it's used positively, but original Yiddish word was used in a negative connotation to show brashness. So, who is the hero? The hero is Veer Bhai Kotwal. Now, Veer Bhai Kotwal, I'm sorry friends, I couldn't find an original image or a picture of his, so I had to make with the artist impression. Now, who was Veer Bhai Kotwal? I don't know whether you have heard about him or not. Let me give you the synonyms and the implementation, and then I'll give you the story. Boldness, gall is the synonym for it. Antonyms, humility, meekness, modesty. Implementation, the revolt of Veer Bhai Kotwal, which was middle class people taking up arms and liberating Karjat. Karjat is near Mumbai, had a certain suspa to it, right? Had a certain, show of self-confidence to it. So let me tell you the story of Vittal Lakshman Kotwal, aka Veer Bhai Kotwal. He was an exceptional student. He studied law. He started political career. He was the vice chairman of Matharan Council. Okay, he was elected post. That was an elected post. When Gandhiji gave the call of Quit India movement, because he was frustrated with the British dominion, so he took to armed struggle and formed Kotwal Dastan. Now, Kotwal Dastan was a parallel government in Karjat, Maharashtra. So, and this was all middle class, people supporting Kotwal to free that part of India. So, he and his group started blowing away railway lines, telephone lines to cut off British communications. So, and then it went on. They had some successes too. But ultimately in 1943, he was trapped in Sidgarh jungles and he died in police encounter. So that was Veer Bhai Kotwal for you. The next word, rectitude. And the next hero, one of the most underrated leaders of Indian National Congress. What does rectitude means? It means righteousness as a consequence of being honorable and honest. The root word is rect, means straight, right? Okay. So, who is the one of the most underrated leaders, Congress leaders? I'll tell you the same root words. Same root words: rectilinear, rectangle, same root words. Okay. And the hero is none other than Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He was one underutilized leader of India. You see, he started his career as a journalist. He was heavily, inspired by Aurobindo Ghosh, and he was one of the only Muslim journalists who came against 1905 Bengal partition of Curzon. So in 1905, Curzon partitioned Bengal into two parts. Now, most of the Muslim leaders were non-committal to the unity of Bengal. The Muslim commoners were like every commoner, but not the leadership. I don't know why. But this man was one man who came out in vehement opposition to that. The Maulvis and some part of leadership shunned him, but still he went on. This is the time also when he struck a very dear friendship with Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das. He started his magazine Al Hilal in this, this period. In that, he criticized British policies and also explored the rich cultural tradition and link between Hindus and Muslims. He was a secularist at the heart, right? So he always wanted to, get to an India where all communities, all caste would be happily ever after together. But Al-Hilal was banned, and Azad, taking the opportunity of Khilafat movement, Al-Hilal was ultimately banned, and Azad, taking the opportunity of Khilafat movement, started a campaign across the country to educate and socially reform the Indian Muslim community. His popularity started increasing, and then he was arrested. He got released as in around before the non-cooperation movement, and was one of the key leaders and management, the management guy, the background guy in the non-cooperation movement. After non-cooperation movement got called off, I told you that the Chittaranjan Das went on to found Swaraj Party. He invited his friend to be one of the founding members, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. But by then Maulana has grown too close to Gandhiji, and he did not want to go. It's some historians say, I don't know, I mean, that till then Maulana was seen by the youth as a firebrand leader, and some predict that if he went to Swaraj Party, he could have been an independent leader of his own right. But in Congress, staying in the Congress, he became the fall guy for the Congress. All the management, background management, because he was good at management, all the background management responsibilities came to him, and he was forced to go to the background, whereas Nehru and Vallabhbhai Patel were in the foreground. But if we look at the overall history, that was a loss for us, because if Maulana had been at the foreground alongside in the Congress alongside Vallabhbhai Patel and Nehru, the partition might have been avoided, right? So might have been. No one knows, but might have been. So, but this sadly did not happen, because he became so busy with Congress's institutional work. After independence, he became the first education minister. Okay, but as a man, he was full of honesty and uprightness, right attitude, rectitude, right attitude. Okay, let me give you the synonym: decency, integrity, honesty, morality, righteousness. All synonyms. Antonyms: corruption, deceit, immorality, all antonyms. Implementation: influenced by Gandhiji, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad spent a life of rectitude and simplicity, right? Righteousness and simplicity. Okay, right? So that was the last word. I mean this word. The next word, there was the 13th word. The 14th word is an idiom, and that is shoulder to shoulder. What does it mean? It means to proceed as equals. Who is our hero? The hero is none other than Captain Lakshmi Sehgal. Now, who was Lakshmi Sehgal? Some of you must have heard about her. So let me give you the biodata of Lakshmi Sehgal, and see whether you know everything about her, or the important things about her. Lakshmi Swaminathan was an MBBS doctor. Her name before marriage was Lakshmi Swaminathan. She graduated from Chennai Medical College. During World War II, she went to Singapore to work as a field doctor. In 1942, Singapore surrendered. British Singapore surrendered to Japan, and that is when Netaji landed in Singapore. She already had good relation with Indian prisoners of war. So when Netaji started recruiting them for INA, Indian National Army, she went and met Netaji. She drafted the policy and plan for an all-woman regiment. She did this. Netaji was impressed. He gave a go-ahead too. And Captain Lakshmi started recruiting into her regiment. Janki Davar was one of the first initiates, and thus was formed the first all-woman regiment of the modern world. Now tell me, did you know this? Yes, my dear friends, Captain Lakshmi founded the first all-woman regiment under Netaji of the modern world, right? The Rani Jhansi Regiment. The Rani Jhansi Regiment, right? And Captain Lakshmi was its first commanding officer. It was an infantry regiment. It traveled shoulder to shoulder with their male comrades. And when they entered Infal, they were also there, right? But you know that Japan was defeated, and then INA had to surrender. Captain Lakshmi was captured in 1945. Her later years went as a doctor and social worker. She died in 2012, and then I seriously hope I had met her once. But anyways, I didn't meet her, and that's something that I will repent always. 1912. It's so late she died. So if I had met her once, I would have met one of the greats of our freedom fight. Anyway, so synonyms: beside, at level, side by side, arm in arm. Antonym: no relevant antonym. Led by Captain Lakshmi, the first all-woman regiment of the modern world. The soldiers of Rani Jhansi The soldiers of Rani Jhansi regiment of INA march shoulder to shoulder with their male comrades. Right. But you know what? Unfortunately, there is no Rani Jhansi regiment in today's Indian Army. No, leave it. No all-woman regiment also in Indian Army. See, like everything of INA, this also remains forgotten. Anyways, chalo, let's move on to the next word, and the next one is another idiom. Now, all the freedom fighters are done with. Now the next three words and idioms would be with to that class of people if who were as important as freedom fighter in our freedom struggle. And who were they? They were the poets and the songwriters. So the next three people would be the poets and the writers. Now, the first one among them, white man's burden, the word means, it was an idea propagated to justify imperialism by the white man. A white man is the European, that he has a moral responsibility to civilize the non-whites, blacks and browns, right? So that's white man burden. Now, this man, the hero of this word, is one who was against this white man burden concept. I'll come to it. Who was it? This is Garimela Satyanarayan, and I'll give you his about his life. But let's look at the synonym, antonym, and the implementation. No relevant ones in synonym, antonym. Implementation. The famous song Makkore Tela Doratanamu, translated as "We Don't Need the White to Rule," composed by Telugu poet Garimela Satyanarayan, was a slap in the face of white man's burden theory propagated by the British imperialist. So white man burden, the idiom means that the Britishers had this idea that they are doing a favor by being in India, right? So this song was a tight slap to it, and this song motivated thousands of Telugu kids to join freedom struggle. Uh, Jailed for this song. He was jailed for this song in 1922. Hai na? His tragedy, despite his contribution, he was forgotten in his own lifetime only. He died in 1952, alone, poor, and unaided. That's his song became a cult classic, but he remained forgotten. Anyway, so that was Garimela Satyanarayan for you. The next author on our list would come with the word necrology. Now, what is necrology? Now, the necrology means obituary list of dead people. Obituary list obviously would be of dead people. Root means neck, and root is neck, Latin word neck, which means death. Same root words: necromancy, necropolis, necropsy. Necromancy is magic through deads. Necropolis is a land of dead, a city of dead. Necropsy is autopsy, right? So this is the one. Association. Let me associate it with okay, look at this man, and what do you feel, from which part of the country he was from? Just look at his man, not his wife, but his man. Mostly people answer me that he's most probably a Sikh, but he's not, my dear friend. He's Tamil, and I'll tell you the story behind his this dress. Synonym, obituary, antonym, no relevant ones. Implementation. This is Subramania Bharti. Now, the empathy that Subramania Bharti felt for his countrymen and displayed through his writings was never paid back to him. Today, he does not even find mention in the necrology of martyrs. In the list of martyrs, he has no mention, right? And and he was an amazing poet, and his main works were in Tamil. He's used to publish two weekly, India and Vijaya, okay, which were immensely popular with the revolutionaries. The story behind this look of his is during his stint in Varanasi, he was so impressed by Sikh friends of his and their commitment to freedom that he started sporting a beard like them, and that's how this look of his came. In 1908, after the historic Surat Congress, 1907, where he supported the armed resistance faction of Balgangadhar Tilak and Chidambaram Pillai, he had to escape to Pondicherry because the Britishers were after him. But he again, when he came back, he was arrested in around 1918, I suppose. In 1918, he was arrested, and in the next 3 years, he was released and arrested many times. His health deteriorated a lot there in the imprisonment, and in 1921, he died, and he died a very lonely life. Only 14 people were there when he he died, right? A man who who motivated a large part of India to for armed struggle against Britishers. He died with only 14 people. So in the necrology, in the list of martyrs, he is not there. He is not there. So this is our Subramania Bharti. The last hero of today would come with the word indoctrinated. Indoctrinated is someone who to instruct one in basics or initiate. The Latin root word is doc, means to teach. So, which author indoctrinated the youth of the country? Who other than the rebel poet Nazrul Islam, Kaji Nazrul Islam? You see, he in his lifetime only he was given the title Bidrohi Kavi, meaning rebel poet, right? Let me give you the synonyms and the sentence, and then I'll tell you about his story. Synonym: train, teach, instill, inculcate, imbue. So all of these in positive way for indoctrinated word. In negative way, brainwash, propagandize in negative way. Antonym, I didn't find any relevant ones. Implement. The rebel poet Qazi Nazrul Islam indoctrinated the youth to freedom struggle through his passionate patriotic songs. And it's reality, right? His work Bidrohi is a collection of his songs released alongside non-cooperation movement. In the 1924, I suppose, he was first jailed for writing a song called Anandamoyir Gan. Now, Anandamoyir Gan was written by Qazi Nazrul Islam. So it was pray. He was praying to Lord Kali, to Goddess Kali, to come and kill the villain, that is the Britishers. Okay, so Anandamoyir Agumone was the song that he framed. It went on viral like anything. I mean, in that age of non-viral, it became viral, right? So that was like, and he was first jailed for it. Then came Bisher Basi, or in English, Poison Flute. So Poison Flute, the moment it was released, the moment it was banned by the British government, and again he was jailed for it. But all these works of his did not, due to banning, it is not that it was not distributed. It was translated and distributed by freedom fighters all across the world, all across the country, right? He considered, Rabindranath Tagore, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, his guru, and Rabindranath Tagore also loved him a lot. When once even he was in jail, Rabindranath Tagore asked him whether he should, publish his Qazi Nazrul Islam's work, but he said no, he would publish it himself after he gets released. So that was there. So that was the last hero of today, the 17th one. So, friends, how did you enjoy it? I know when I read these stories, I was like lost in time. It's 90 minutes already. The words took a lot less time. The stories took more time, and that should be, that's the honor that we are paying today to these great men and women. You see, these men and women made me realize that they lived for a cause and died for a cause. And with that, as you all know that I'm a music enthusiast, and I remembered one song from an anime EDM track. I'll show you the song for you. For every man there is a cause which he would gladly die for. Defend the right to have a place to which he can belong to. And every man will fight with his bare hands in desperation and shed his blood to stem the flood, to barricade invasion. A very strong lyrical piece. This is from an anime series, Bleach, and the song is Invasion. So you can see Bleach Invasion song, it will come, right? So it so goes with these people, right? It so goes with these people. They live for a cause, and that cause was India's independence, and that cause was India's independence, right? Okay. So what you need to do today, what you need to do is, obviously, don't mug up dictionary meanings when it comes to remembering word. Learn usages, use learned words in your own writing, and join me in these practice classes. Read a lot, and most importantly for today, for this, from this class, spread these stories, my dear friends. Spread these stories. These people died for us. Don't let them die in oblivion. Spread these stories. That's one request to you. So that would be all for today. All the best, and hope to see these stories coming back to me from different sources, and then is when I would find that this class had been a success. Okay, thank you very much. Happy Independence Day in advance, and thank you. Jai Hind.